Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. This is a very special webinar, I would say, because it is not only the first webinar of CISERO project, the Cloud Infrastructure and Services Exploitation Resource Office Digital Euro project, but also the last webinar of the UNLOCK-CEI project. UNLOCK-CEI is part of the Cloud-Edge-IoT umbrella initiative. And predictably, if you have followed UNLOCK-CEI over the last years, but also CISERO towards the beginning, the title is The Future of Cloud and Edge Technologies in the EU Context, Market Insight and Sustainability Roadmap. This is an interesting webinar for several, let's say, categories of people involved in the Cloud Edge and IoT world, but also in AI, as you will see. Let me go quickly into the agenda of today's meeting. We have an interesting agenda with the lineup with both coordinators from CISERO and from UNLOCK-CEI, drawing here a couple of connections between the two projects, also introducing CISERO to the audience, to our new community of people who are joining us for this webinar. And we also have the coordinator of UNLOCK-CEI, who is also a member of CISERO, that is going to talk about the demand, market insight, dynamics, and opportunity. And the two people that I'm talking about are Matthias Kuom from DLR, Germany, and Golboo Pourabdollahian, IDC, Italy. We then have an interesting panel discussion with a couple of projects that work in AI, Cloud Edge, and IoT applications, with Sergio Gusmeroli, representing the REDGIO 5.0 project, Xavier Masip for the Manolo project, and Ajay Katepur from the Pandora project. A bit of housekeeping to let you know that the event will be recorded. We'll make it available on the CISERO channel and probably also on the Cloud-Edge-IoT channel in the next days. We encourage you to enter any question in the chat, although there will be Q&A sessions at the end of the panels. And the speakers will be pleased to answer back your questions in real time, okay? We'll also have some polls for you coming up very soon. And please follow the chat, okay, to get any links and any updates that might pop up as the speakers present. So please, I would ask you to, first of all, join us at menti.com and enter the code so you can get into our polls, just as an icebreaker to get to know each other a bit better and to understand where all the audience is coming from. So please join us at this link, or also scan the QR code here and or enter the code at menti.com. So very quickly, I'm going into the Mentimeter, presenting our slides today. So the first slide is quite straightforward, and this is loading. Which of these categories better describes you? Are you a tech developer? Are you a tech provider? Are you a policymaker? Are you an end user? I would let people vote. Okay. Don't be shy. Keep voting. For those of you who just joined, you can join us at menti.com and use the code at the top. Okay, so we have a diverse group of people. I think it's, as of now, it's mostly R&D. There are at least 4 tech developers in the audience, policymaker, couple of end users. Please keep voting. Yes, okay, so we have a lot of tech developers. And this is interesting because there will be a couple of projects that will be interesting and relevant for this scope. So it is, in a way, the type of audience we were looking for. Okay, as people keep voting, I will go into the next question, okay? What kind of Cloud-Edge-IoT applications are you interested in? This is a word cloud, so it's really open questions for everybody to answer as they prefer. Agritech. The first word we got is agritech. Someone working at the agro tech applications, legal field, lot of implication. quality, human machine. Okay. Food system. So once again, connected to agri-tech, I would say, in this specific instance. CCAM, interesting. Sensor processing pipeline, interesting. Okay. IoT, drone control. Okay. Very varied type of audience we can see here. And I think that most of the presentations here will be very interesting for several of you, because it's a very diverse plethora of projects presenting different perspectives. So I believe if you're in the right place, okay? So bear with us till the end. Okay, as answers keep happening, wow, this is getting very interesting. And I think I'll probably want to share this slide later on as the webinar ends, just to showcase to you what's the current state of the art. But without further ado, I would pass the word to the next speaker, because we have a very limited time. So I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll come back to it. So please keep voting. Our first speaker is Matthias Kuom, coordinator of the CISERO project. Over to you, Matthias, and I'm stop sharing my screen.
Thanks, Claudio. Good afternoon, everybody. Was already interesting to see what diverse audience we have. And I would like now to present you the CISERO project, which is a newly started CSA. And I would like to start with what's in the back of this CSA. Here I lent a slide from the European Commission, thanks Anna, to describe the IPCEI on cloud infrastructures and services that is behind this CSA. And this is one of the biggest digital projects in Europe. You can see that already the state aid sums up to 1.2 billion, and this project or this initiative addresses many different aspects of the cloud and edge continuum. And it's important to see that we not only address things like cloud edge management, but also the application side. And there we will also later on, I think, discuss about the use cases and application areas. But it's also important to understand, even if it's a very big initiative, it's not alone in the field. It's part of a bigger ecosystem with some of the names you know or you represent yourself. And our role as a CSA is now to address these different stakeholders. On the one hand, the IPCEI-CIS members, so the projects that want to deliver solutions in the cloud edge continuum, but also the policy level, because currently 12 member states are supporting this initiative directly. And the aim of the Commission is to extend also the participating member states. And what I see as very important from this exploitation aspect is, of course, to get more companies and RTOs on board to participate in this initiative in different ways. Either as developer, we've seen in the questionnaire that currently today we have lots of tech developers here in the call. So for them, the question might be, how can I participate? And here our role is to get you in contact with this IPCEI-CIS, this initiative, and help you to find the right way to contribute to this important initiative. This means that our support is, of course, in reaching out. That's what we are doing with the webinar today, for example, and by also addressing some of the stakeholders that you have seen in the slide before, and then not as the body who decides for the IPCEI-CIS, but the body that supports the IPCEI-CIS in identifying partners that might be very helpful in delivering the whole portfolio necessary for this Cloud-Edge continuum, but also in finding the right partners for dissemination and exploitation of these results. Another support measure is that we also want to see how this market is developing, and that we want to support with an analysis of, on the one hand, the solutions that are already exist, for example, from Other Horizon Europe or also Digital Europe projects, and with that support the architecture developments and the road mapping that the IPCEI-CIS is doing. So here we give input, what's happening on the demand side, and by that help to stimulate also this portfolio approach. And the main objective of the CSA is promoting this IPCEI-CIS, or how they now call themselves Aura stack as a whole, that potential users, that potential partners understand what's in these developments, what can be already used, and how are the conditions under which these developments can support the individual business ideas. This starts, of course, with early adopters, only in the EU, but also outside the EU. And here we want to provide the necessary instruments to make this happen. Just to let you know who is on board in this CSA, here you can see the partners. They are distributed across Europe. I don't want to name them individually, but you see it's a good mix of different competencies to do this exploitation work. And we have also already started with a website and a social media channel where you can find already first informations, and where you also can subscribe to a newsletter where we then will present the different communication and dissemination activities that we will start. And with that, I want already to thank you and hand back to Claudio for either direct questions or otherwise have a bit more time than later on for the discussion.
Thank you very much, Matthias. I think it was a very comprehensive, quick presentation and outlook of CISERO and what CISERO is all about. And I think this idea of, a big open community like IPCEI-CIS that is still sort of in development, and we're still trying to understand what are all the players that could also be involved in this scenario, I think is one of the main, it really resonates at least with me, this point that you highlighted. And this is why also today we are trying to here build bridges between communities by showcasing the results of UNLOCK-CEI and understanding how this can be, let's say, uptaken by the CISERO and the IPCEI-CIS initiative as a whole. And this is why I'm also really happy to give the word to Golboo Pourabdollahian, who's not only a partner of CISERO as IDC, but also the coordinator of the UNLOCK-CEI project, which is finalizing this month. Over to you, Golboo.
Thank you very much, Claudio. And let me share my screen. Can you see the screen now? Okay.
Yes.
So thanks a lot, and good afternoon also from my side, everyone. My name is Golboo Pourabdollahian. I'm a senior consulting manager in IDC and the coordinator of UNLOCK-CEI. As Claudio mentioned, so today I wear the hat of UNLOCK-CEI, even though we are also part of the CISERO. But I would like to talk to you about the main insights that we got during the lifetime of the project, because it's going to end just in 2 weeks at the end of November in terms of demand, market insights, dynamics, and opportunities. Before basically I start to talk about it with you, I maybe perhaps I would like to set the ground, that why we talk about computing continuum. So Matthias explained about the IPCEI-CIS, but the strategic relevance of computing continuum, so from Cloud-Edge-IoT continuum, is really now becoming quite important for Europe. So I think most of you know about the REDGIO report that was published in September, and there were many topics. It was about the European competitiveness in general, and many topics were discussed there for let's say a sort of recommendations on how Europe should move forward in order to recover the gap that now it has been created in terms of the competitiveness. And the concept of the computing continuum has been mentioned several times in REDGIO report. So in terms of integrated and flexible infrastructure that can help digitalization of Europe, in terms of supporting digital sovereignty and security of Europe, supporting the AI application in European industries, also for energy efficiency, and finally for economic and strategic competitiveness. So different components, like especially edge, because more or less for cloud, we know that hyperscalers are running the cloud market, but especially when we talk about the edge, there's still the opportunity for European players to move forward and get the positioning in the market of the edge. And so that's a strategic for Europe. And then, as Matthias mentioned, there are the computing continuum, and in practical, cloud to edge is a key pillar in strategic European initiatives such as IPCEI-CIS. You saw this picture in image in Matthias' presentation, which talks about the main work streams of the IPCEI-CIS projects. And as you can see, there are 2 work streams which are specifically focused on the cloud edge capabilities and cloud edge continuum infrastructure. So this, let's say, concept of the computing continuum, the distributed resources for the computation, is quite a very relevant and important issue for the European industry. And that's what UNLOCK-CEI as a project, as a CSA, was focusing in the last 13 months of its operation. Basically, UNLOCK is one of the CSAs that, together with Open Continuum, another CSA, established the EU Cloud-Edge-IoT initiative, which was also supported by the European Commission. And the objective is to promote cooperation, collaboration among different types of stakeholders, from research to industry, across Europe, and also support and definition and implementation of large-scale pilots. In particular, UNLOCK-CEI had its focus on the demand side, so to understand that how is the demand landscape of the Cloud-Edge-IoT, what are the market scenarios, market pathways, and also to establish a dialogue between the demand side and the supply side, so the tech developers within the Research Innovation Actions projects and the industrial users within the market. And we have the 6 partners, as you can see here, and IDC is the coordinator of the project. And this is the committee of EU Cloud-Edge-IoT so far. 59 projects under the EU Cloud-Edge-IoT, which were, let's say, coordinated, as I said, by the 2 projects, Open Continuum, which ended in August, and UNLOCK-CEI, which will end at the end of November. But let's go to some results of the insights that we generated within the project itself. So when we talk about the Cloud-Edge-IoT market, it's important to understand 2 things. First, what is the investment in this market, and how is the adoption in this market? So on the left side, you can see the investment in Europe in terms of different components of the computing continuum, so Cloud-Edge-IoT. And you can see that there's no surprise that we can see cloud has the highest investment. But what is here interesting is that we can see that the compound annual growth rate for the edge investment is quite significant, so 14.1% to 2026. So this means that the expectation and the forecast for the edge investment in Europe by 2026 will be something around $75 billion in Europe, which is a big number. And if we want to look at it from the adoption perspective, so how is currently this adoption of the edge technologies across the different sectors is happening in Europe? We can, if you look at the right side of the slide, so the chart, it shows the result of the survey that we did, that as you can see, even though in general the adoption is low, is very low, is 6% overall across all sectors, but we can see that there are some sectors that are more pioneers, like manufacturing, for instance, or like healthcare, that they have more a higher adoption rate of edge technologies. Meanwhile, there are some other sectors such as agriculture, which are really now lagging behind in terms of the adoption of edge technologies. But what is interesting here is that we can see in terms of the planned adoption, so how the end users see the forecast and the plan of the edge technologies in their organizations, we can see that it's quite promising. So we can see that and it shows the green side of the chart that, for instance, in transportation is 39%. So what we can see is that even though now in general, the adoption is low, and also in some sectors like agriculture and mobility, it's lower even compared to the average, but it seems that this let's say gap will be recovered within the next years according to the results that we obtained within our survey. The adoption, basically, when we talk about the computing continuum, the adoption is very much focused at the use case level, because edge computing is a technology at the use case level, since obviously it's not a requirement for all use cases. It depends on the specific functionality of each use case that is required. The use cases basically will be implemented across the computing continuum, distributing the workload across the resources in the continuum. So here you can see that we have mapped several highlighted use cases of the computing continuum, and and this is again based on the results of the survey that we did, and the positioning of the distribution of the workload across different use cases. So what we can see here is that even though now more or less we can see that they are in position in a sort of mix of edge and cloud, more towards cloud. So more workload now is being processed and being distributed to the cloud. But the forecast is that within the next few years, there will be a big shift towards edge in the upcoming year. So more resources will be distributed to the edge. More computing will be shifted towards the edge resources. And this basically also highlights a complexity, which is the orchestration. Because then for each use case, we need to understand that how to orchestrate the workload efficiently and effectively and in a secure way across the computing continuum and across the different sources from cloud to edge. And then here we come to the other point that we have, the challenges that the industries have in order to adopt edge. We forecast that, yes, there will be a shift, a faster shift towards the edge resources, but there are challenges also in terms of the adoption of the edge. So again, the analysis shows that the main challenges that have been highlighted either in terms of edge adoption or IoT adoption by the respondents are in terms of the cost, return on investment, and security. So you can see here for both edge and IoT, these are the top top challenges that the respondents and the industrial users mentioned. Complexity is also another challenge, and it's often the cause of high cost and worries about the security that are top of the list. There are obviously other challenges such as inadequate IT infrastructure, lack of skills, organizational issues, 5G immaturity, etc., etc. But basically what this picture tells us is that in one way, if we want to translate these challenges in one word, is that still these solutions, the CI solutions, are quite complex for the end users to be let's say applied and deployed. And even if we look at the results of the edge usage, considering the size of the end users and size of the companies, this will be much more highlighted. That this is the main problem for SMEs, as we can see here, in terms of edge adoption, because the edge adoption there is much lower, and this highlights the problem of complexity that we were talking about, because the complexity is about the solutions itself, it's about the required skills, it's about the labor-intensive nature of the solution, which eventually all of them can be translated to cost. And obviously, this is a big problem for SMEs, and because it needs that cost, and they need budget for that. And if we think about it from the European perspective, it's even a more important issue, because we know that the percentage of small medium enterprises in Europe is quite high. For instance, in manufacturing, about more than 95% of the manufacturers in Europe are SMEs. So this again highlights that there are specific challenges to be dealt with when we talk about the CI and edge adoption. On the other hand, another important factor to consider that affects the adoption of edge are the complementary technologies like 5G, like big data, like AI. So here you can see that our results shows that the main key technologies that were associated to CI projects by the end users and industrial users are 5G networks, big data, and big data analytics. And there it brings us to another important thing, which is about the important role of telco edge. And so here on the right side, you can see some quotations of some CTOs and CIOs that we did interview with them for this analysis. And they all highlight the crucial role of 5G in their cutting edge use cases, you know, and the need for advanced technologies also like data analytics and more established, let's say, network solutions to be able to move forward to the edge adoption. So in summary, if you want to summarize the key gaps that can be seen in the market, can be observed in the markets, a market to adopt the CI solution, especially when we talk about the shift towards edge, we can just summarize. These are some key gaps that I highlight here. So the edge orchestration tools, there is for sure a specific need for interoperability and security for effective management of the distributed workload across the computing continuum. And for this, we really need tools that can orchestrate the workload in an effective way. The standards is super important when we talk about CI and edge solutions, because we need simplified and harmonized standards for edge that ensures the interoperability, connectivity, and 5G networks, as we mentioned before. So we know that currently the public 5G networks are not really covering everything, and we need really some advanced 5G solutions to be able to accelerate the adoption. Skills, that was also a part of the challenges that we met. We need upskilling and reskilling of the human resource, and for this, basically, we are not only talking about the upskilling and reskilling in terms of the computing continuum technological components, but also about the complementary technologies such as AI, because it's a sort of a group of technologies that need this skill together, and they are not isolated from each other. And so this is also another important thing to consider. Another important issue is about the commercialization and scale. We know that currently in the cloud market, hyperscalers are just dominant in the market. And if European companies in the edge market want to compete, they should scale aggressively, because the global market is really tough, is fierce. And if the European providers cannot scale aggressively their solutions, it's going to be really difficult to compete and get a positioning that could be strategic for the European tech providers. And finally, the concrete business cases. So as we saw, even if a tech provider provides the most perfect solution, at the end of the day, the end user wants a clear return on investment, a business case to be able to move forward to adopt the solution. Some final remarks about some perhaps recommendations that can address these gaps. Basically, the fragmented nature of this CI solution market that we saw requires a sort of investment across many different use cases and at pilot and use case level, because this is the way that we need to move solutions toward commercial feasibility. Then in terms of open standards and open source technologies, there is really a need to joint efforts across different initiatives and different works in Europe. And because basically open standards and open source are really strategic for Europe in terms of sovereignty and competitive advantage. So on this, there are many different initiatives that go in parallel, but really there's a need to join forces on that. Then we need to also accelerate upskilling and reskilling, but this needs some, let's say, innovative mechanisms such as micro-training or such as joint industry research short courses. Then obviously European tech providers need to be supported when they want to scale up from the medium markets to large market. And on this, what is very important is to promote international collaboration to scale up. And again, here we can come back to the previous point of standardization and interoperability, because if we don't have the international collaboration, let's say, for instance, in terms of standardization, it's very difficult that European solutions can be compatible worldwide and can be deployed worldwide. So maybe they will be only limited to Europe. And finally, there should be a sort of continuation of building the legal and privacy framework. However, there should be a balance between the need for legal clarity and the need for flexibility, because sometimes what might happen is that these legal frameworks can somehow slow down the scale up of the solutions, and what is being within the market. So the fast pace of the market will go, and these frameworks will slow down the European players. So yeah, this was in a nutshell what I wanted to present to you. I just wanted to say that you can also reach the web portal of EU Cloud-Edge-IoT to access all the reports that we have generated, all the tools. And just a few last perhaps message is that the project UNLOCK-CEI project will end at the end of November, but the legacy will continue by a new CSA, CI Sphere, which has started in October, and it will continue its let's say its journey to provide support for large scale pilots for open, interoperable and competitive ecosystem for adoption of Edge IoT in Europe, focusing on key technologies of Metaverse architecture, decentralized intelligence, and swarm computing. And in fact, in 2 weeks, we have together with Instar, so CISERO and Instar, they have together with the European Commission a workshop in Brussels, which is focused on one of the topics that we discussed before, standardization, so on cross-domain standardization and architecture for edge computing. There will be international speakers, also European speakers. So if you are interested, I would encourage you to just check the website and register for that. So that was all from my side. I hope that I respected the time. I don't know if there is any question or comment for me. If not, over to you, Claudio.
Yes, thank you very much, Golboo, for the punctuality. Actually, we are 1 minute before the agreed upon time. There is a question for you in the Q&A part. I encourage you to respond perhaps by writing because it's kind of a complex question. So maybe take your time for this. It's from Vijay Rao, one of our people in the audience. Thank you very much, Vijay, for the participation. And please, yes, if you can tackle that, that would be useful. I just want to focus for a second on what you said. I think about the idea of competitiveness and the fact that the Europe needs to boost competitiveness for the not fighting in a way the hyperscalers that come also from different contexts and how this can be done. And obviously a big topic is the AI and 5G, which in a way are also very much connected to each other. Not only 5G, but I'm thinking about 5G and beyond, 5G advanced, 6G, all these functionalities that are said there will be, at least it said they should be AI native, right? So the AI will be a big component of that. So there is a very big and sensitive link between the new edge deployments and the telco industry, as well as the AI applications. And this is why we, in a way, get to the second part of our panel, which will cover specifically that. So AI applications in the Cloud-Edge-IoT computing continuum context. We have the privilege of having 3 projects with us today, which will also present perspectives from different type of people, let's say, involved in these applications. We will have both the perspective of developers, but also the perspective of end users through different projects that are also at different stages, right, of their deployment as of now. So I would give the floor to Sergio Gusmeroli from the Polytechnic of Milan, who is one of the main faces behind the AI REDGIO 5.0 project. And Sergio is going to probably give us a very interesting perspective of that. And so he will present the project, and the next 2 speakers will do the same. And then we will have a panel discussion, a couple of questions for each one of you. So Sergio, over to you, and thank you very much for joining.
Thank you, Claudio, and good afternoon to everybody. This is Sergio Gusmeroli. I'm research coordinator at Polytechnic di Milano, and I'm the coordinator of the AI REDGIO 5.0. My point of view today is the point of view of the demand side. So in line with what Golboo said about UNLOCK-CEI, and in particular manufacturing SME viewpoint. The project I'm coordinating is an innovation action in Horizon Europe, and we started at the beginning of 23, and we are part of the I4MS2 cluster, which means ICT innovation for manufacturing SME sustainability. It is a large project with a lot of partners, and we stem upon regions and regional innovation. The overall objectives are synthesized here, and so the name of the AI REDGIO 5.0 tells you which are our major pillars. One is regional innovation, and so we strongly believe that many of the innovations are born locally, and then we need to put them globally. Which innovation are we talking about? First of all, AI at the edge and Industry 5.0. So we have these 2 main foci, which are on the one side, AI application and the human factors and the human involvement in the industrial processes. Edge to cloud continuum is one of the major challenges we have, and we use edge to cloud instead of cloud to edge, because in my opinion, and also Golboo confirmed this, in the manufacturing, the point and the main transition is to go from edge application to cloud application. Interoperability, network of European Digital Innovation Hub, our proposal in order to fill this gap between edge applications and cloud application and scale up this small scale experiment is to rely on a trusted environment, on a trusted intermediary that for us are the digital innovation hubs. test before invest experiments with the aim of sustainability and in some cases also circularity. One example of that is in Lombardy region. Lombardy region is the region of Milano, is more or less 10 million inhabitants. And this company is an SME, and it is forging metal sheet solutions basically for the white goods industry. The basic point that we want to stress is that we will have technology providers like Porini, which is a part of DGS company, which is going to develop the AI at the edge solution. But we really need other forces in order not to let the SME alone in the digital transformation journey and in the journey between edge to cloud. IntelliMech is a digital innovation hub which includes 55 partners, both technology providers and technology users in the region of Bergamo. And this is what I meant as intermediary, as honest broker, as a trusted partner, in order to let the SME trust somebody who is going to host the cloud application, the cloud data, and not to infringe privacy and confidentiality issue. Then we have AFIL, which is the regional agency or Regione Lombardia for Intelligent Factory, and we have Politecnico di Milano. The case is a case of zero defect manufacturing, and this zero defect manufacturing is implemented by AI at the edge, by machine vision techniques, but also by humans. And so it is very, very important how the humans are and the operators are trained and how the humans are involved in the zero defect manufacturing and quality control. As the last slide, I wish to stress one thing, that is the AI at the edge. The experiment is just part of a pathway. And so the SME is constantly stimulated towards digital transformation, in this case, AI-driven digital transformation, by both the IntelliMech and the AFIL, by a set of services. And this is a typical pipeline of services which belong to the best category. These services which are related to data, skills, business, technology, and ecosystem. And what I wish to claim today is that also the edge to cloud continuum implementation in the manufacturing SME need a combination of services, because we really need to fill several gaps in the manufacturing SMEs regarding both the technology, but also the skills, the business models, and the ecosystem. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you very much. I think it was a very rich presentation, and it touched upon several topics that are interesting for us, especially, once again, the industry-related use case that you presented. And I have a couple of questions for you, but first I would go into the next speakers for their presentation, and then we can have sort of a round table, if you all agree. So I would now bring the second speaker to the floor, Xavier Masip from Manolo.
Okay, sorry, because I just lost the connection, so I don't know if you hear me and you see me and you see also the slide.
Everything in order. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for the invitation. Thanks all for joining, and good to meet you all, everyone here. So, this is Xavier Masip. I'm a professor at UPC. I'm also working in the Manolo project. And I'm also participating as a technical coordinator for the ICOS project. That is actually one of the ones that are one of the 6 ones that are being funded by the Commission to work on this sort of meta OS, right? So that's the point. So regarding Manolo, Manolo, Manolo at the end of the day this is what I'm trying to show you. But I mean, first of all, I mean, Manolo, this is what you see. This is Manolo. I mean, it's a project that started in last January. It's 18 partners, so more or less distributed around Europe, putting together, I mean, people with expertise in not only in, say, in AI, but also, I mean, with expertise in aspects related to how we can provide trust into the system. That is actually, at the end, the main objective for the project. So there is also, of course, people that is expert or with bringing expertise in cloud and edge. So this all together, and along with the use cases, of course, and this is the overall perspective for Manolo. So from the point of view of what Manolo is, right? At the end of the day, Manolo, the objective for Manolo is to, I mean, to assist on the AI processing, right? All what is related to how we can provide or optimize the way that the different processes in AI could be managed, this is Manolo. But the key point, I mean, the key word here is that we are not only trying to improve or enhance the way that the all EU-related operations are managed, but we are also trying to make them all to be trustable. And this is the key attribute in Manolo. And to do that, and align it to this objective, we plan to benefit as much as we can from what we can deploy in the continuum. Understand the continuum from the cloud to the edge or to the edge to the cloud, right? So it doesn't matter. So that's the whole point. And that's the key idea. So we should develop wherever that is needed to make AI systems to be much more efficient. To do that, we develop algorithms to develop wherever improvement is required, and all what we develop, all what we add into the system should be, by default, should be trustworthy, right? So that's the point. And that's where we are adding also people in the consortium that is not so technical side, but also more conceptually related to this sort of how we can provide trustworthiness. Related to that, I mean, it's very clear, and all people that is here knows that I mean, what is expected, and in the coming years, everything is going to be much more closely related to AI, to cloud, to extreme data. I'm not just talking about big data, talking about extreme data. So all that is related to this extreme world that may somehow affect how things are managed. So this is, of course, impacting on not only on the green side that we're always trying to work on, but also it's impacting on society, because, I mean, we know how AI is impacting on many different behaviors in society. Of course, on the cost, as we are managing lots and lots and lots of data. And this also somehow strongly related to not only the people, not only to the technicians, but also to whatever stakeholder related to governments, related to critical infrastructure managers, related to business stakeholders. So wherever that it's be impacted by the use of AI should be considered here. So as said before, I mean, the objective is putting together the two words: efficiency on the way that we manage AI processes and trustworthiness. The idea is to benefit as much as possible from the cloud continuum to run this efficiency. But as you know, cloud continuum by itself is very, say, sensitive to all problems or many related problems, security, many related problems of trust. So these somehow also, I mean, a background that that we should consider when dealing with this sort of optimizing the way that AI processes are managed. So how we do that? I mean, where we put the efforts on trying to provide this trustworthy. I mean, on one side we have three sides, right? The one is data. I mean, this is clear that we should make it all to be consistent from the point of view of how we manage the overall data life cycle. The other one is how we manage the continuum. I mean, how do we benefit as much as possible from using the continuum into allocating the different processes related to the AI systems? And the other one is how we may optimize the way that hardware is being used to run AI processes. So the key question here is, do we need something that is different from what we're doing now to optimize AI processes? This something could be related to AI, sorry, to hardware itself, should be related to how we manage the stack of resources into the continuum, should be related in the way that we manage data. These are the key questions that we are trying to contribute to. So from the point of view of the objectives, aligned to that is, of course, we should try to see how we manage hardware I mean, is there any kind of, some time ago, people started working on GPUs just to optimize how media is managed. How do we make something related to that can somehow improve the way that we're managing AI systems? So that's why we are using neuromorphic processors that are somehow, I mean, designed to optimize different AI systems. Of course, we should reduce the footprint on environment. We should create new business models for cloud and edge, benefiting from how AI is expanding the portfolio of services that can run on the continuum. We should make it all reliable, efficient. To do that, we should not rely on the expertise of people, assuming that people will be just simple users, and we should also clearly identify how this meets regulation, how this meets potential guidelines, policies, whatever. And of course, we should be somehow, I mean, pushing for this sort of open source delivery, right? So from the point of view of the use cases, how do we plan to run this? I mean, one of the biggest problems that I think that we all have when dealing with this edge or cloud and edge, right, to the continuum, is, I mean, what is the key benefit of using that? It's all clear. I mean, we have many people here have been working on this idea for long, right? But what is the killer application? Why do we need mandatory? I need the continuum. I need edge, right? Which is the killer app that is pushing me for using edge, that is pushing someone to build a business case on top of that. So, as you know, on projects, it's very difficult to align use cases, or sometimes it's very difficult to align use cases to validate the outcome of the projects. I mean, this is clear in projects that are, for example, in 6G projects. That, I mean, this is quite clear. But in this one, in Manolo, what we decided to go for, I mean, use cases in these three areas. One is manufacturing, health, and telecom. In manufacturing, we are using, we plan to use industrial robots for agile manufacturing. In health, we are also using, proposing to use robots for assisting living. And in telecoms, we are also introducing computing vision models into the mobile devices that are, of course, located to the edge. And we need some extra work to do that, right? And Manolo, what he's trying to do is, on these scenarios, how we may optimize the services that are running on top, the AI services that are running on top, through developing a trustworthy strategy, right? The impact, of course, this is related to what I mentioned before. I mean, this impact is mapping the objectives. But to me, what it's important is related to on the cloud continuum context, right? So from the Manolo perspective, from the cloud continuum perspective, AI is just a client for the continuum, right? So it's a service. We plan to use the continuum to optimize the way that the AI service is being executed. This is important in many aspects. For example, in training, or for example, in how we may, that has been mentioned before, how we may deploy AI at the edge. There are many different strategies, many different efforts running on this initiative, right? Of course, it's also facilitating data management. But there are many challenges that open, and I'm not talking about on how we may develop this sort of metal wells that many people here in Europe is trying to push for. There are still many problems on how we may decide on the allocation of resources to map the different needs service should have, assuming that this is a very heterogeneous, large, mobile, dynamic scenario. Security is a nightmare. I mean, how can we manage the security of systems that I do not own? I mean, the cloud and edge provider. Imagine, for example, that we have a scenario that is even much more open. Is in a scenario that is sharing infrastructure. If we share infrastructure, there is no a unique owner managing everything together. When we go to Amazon, it's very clear who's managing Amazon. When we go to cloud and edge, it's not clear who's managing the overall stack of resources within the cloud and edge. So how do we manage security here? Even considering that when we are adding AI, everything is even much more complex from the cybersecurity perspective. So it's very difficult, and there are many processes working on that. It's very difficult to compile a set of specific requirements that is putting together the whole complete set of needs that should be considered for developing this sort of cloud continuum. And I think it's done. It's done. I do not track time, so I hope it's not too late. So any question, please open. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Xavier. Very interesting presentation. I think you posed a lot of interesting questions, and I'm quite sure there will be many questions from the audience. And please feel free to ask your questions to Xavier. Drop them in the Q&A part, and we will make sure to respond probably in the panel part, but also live as we go. Before we get into the panel, I have a lot of questions for you too. I would go into our last speaker, Ajay Katepul, who is going to present to us the couple of insights from the Pandora project, the last project of the ones that are here. It's closer to Manol, I would say, Pandora in this sense. It's more linked to tech developers rather than end users, but nonetheless, it's going to bring yet a different perspective, I think, which is very interesting for us today. We go back into the telco cloud applications here with 5G-enabled smart building automation. Floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ajay. I work as a senior researcher at Ericsson, and we are one of the use case partners in the Pandora project. And this use case is on 5G-enabled smart building automation. As already many of the speakers have talked, we are seeing an evolution of 5G towards 6G use cases. So 5G built on 4G use cases by having requirements for IoT connectivity, for critical infrastructures, for novel use cases such as augmented reality. And towards 6G, we will see enhancements of these use cases in the 2027 to 2030 time frame, where we would have massive digital twins, connected intelligent machines, network compute fabric, where the 6G infrastructures and hyperscalers will sort of merge together, and novel use cases on trustworthy systems, autonomous networks, so on and so forth. So our project called Pandora is based on creating a comprehensive framework for preparation and delivery of trustworthy data sets for AIoT, artificial intelligence of things applications. So here we have AIoT systems that include smart spaces that could have IoT connectivity, robots, AI running on them. And this could be mapped to multiple use cases, including manufacturing, smart buildings, and critical energy infrastructures. And what we see is that there are two phases. One phase is on the data preparation and analysis, where we have trustworthy AI infrastructures, data sensing being provided in the data preparation. And the second phase is the deployment of these trained AI models in an efficient manner that would use AI model selection as well as optimization across the computing continuum. And the context that we have is on the business context, where we see that the 5G and 6G technologies have the potential to be used across multiple industrial domains. So this could have industry 4.0 context in manufacturing, warehouse, indoor logistics, but this will have requirements on QoS guarantees to be provided for different kinds of systems. So robotic automation, IoT sensing, AI workloads, video feeds, these would have different throughput, reliability, latency, packet loss requirements that need to be dynamically managed by the 5G or 6G infrastructure. And what we want to prove is that compared to the traditional infrastructure being used in industrial domains, which is either wired connection or Wi-Fi based connections, these 5G and 6G services can provide superior coverage, higher reliability, and QoS differentiations. So these are safety critical environments where we also need to add in trustworthiness and look at optimization of energy usage across edge, fog, and cloud deployments. So in our particular use case, we look at a case where you have a robot running on a 5G connected factory floor. And on this 5G connected factory floor, we want to maintain connectivity of one or more robots in an efficient manner and have autonomous, trustworthy operations. And there would be multiple approaches that we could target. One is having semantic information of the environment, location of the walls, location of the devices that is put on the knowledge graphs, which could be stored either on device or on the edge, close to multiple devices in order to enable coordination between robots. We also want AI-driven adaptation so that there is autonomy in operations of the robots and IoT devices. Because there is trustworthy AI being built on top of this, there needs to be safety conditions as well as explainability of the AI outcomes. And some of this is also being regulated in the EU. And we also want to have efficient computing selection across the edge, fog, and cloud. To go deeper into the use case, we have one or more robots being sent autonomously in a environment that could be mapped to a gridded infrastructure where you have certain areas that should not be visited, and then there is a goal location. So the robots must move in an automated manner by using path planning algorithms while avoiding obstacles. But on top of this, we want to provide requirements on the 5G system to say that they have to maintain certain throughput, latency, or packet loss requirements in order to maintain the communication constraints of sensing. So the communication constraints could be on data offloading, on distributed SLAM, on edge-based AI model inferencing. So these are varied requirements that need to be dynamically mapped by the AI algorithms. And the indoor 5G network, as well as the combination of these robots, must dynamically adapt to newer requirements. And then talking to the experts in this field, both within Ericsson as well as outside, some of our previous research that we have had with Bosch, ABB, and other partners, there are a lot of challenges here because traditionally the robots follow a preset topology, but now with new requirements on the 5G system, they will have to meet these in a dynamic fashion. There is also unreliable connectivity. So the measurements that are done during design time might have changes during runtime because of changes in topology or antenna location that needs to be taken into account. There is always additional robots that may need to be provisioned in the network that needs to happen dynamically with limited spectrum or compute resources. Explainable AI and safety operations are of critical importance, especially when performing these operations. Today, there is limited use of this semantic knowledge or information that we want to also tackle in this project and make use of that knowledge during the training of AI models in a more efficient manner. And of course, we have the requirements on efficient usage of the 5G spectrum as well as the compute resources in order to meet operational costs. So this is one of the examples where we have a robot that moves along a particular path and has collected some data, and we see different signal strength based on the location or obstacles, and this needs to be sort of generalized by making use of the AI and compute models that we will focus on within the Pandora project. And the Pandora project, this is the architecture that we are working on. And because this project has started this year, this will continue for the next 2-3 years. So as I said, we have these IoT enhanced spaces like critical energy infrastructures, factory and office buildings. And you could have different kinds of resources, edge, fog, and cloud that are provided. And in the first phase, we will want to create customizable and trustworthy data sets that could use different techniques such as automated annotation or synthetic data generation. And that would then be fed to the second phase that we would use advanced AI modeling, lifecycle selection, and modeling capabilities, as well as compute as a service that would efficiently choose the best place to deploy this AI inference model such that energy, accuracy, or inference time requirements are dynamically taken into account. So depending on these kind of use cases, and we have other partners from Siemens, Philips, Halcor, and Framatome, we would want to create a standardized framework where we could recognize which is the best a model to be used for particular use cases, and where they could be efficiently deployed across the compute continuum such that energy, accuracy, inferencing requirements are taken into account. And finally, for our particular use case, we are going to have two scenarios that we will be looking at. One is to do efficient path planning of the robot by taking into account the safety conditions, and all this path planning will be done on by taking into account the 5G and edge deployments. And the second one is autonomous network control, where we would try to modify the 5G system parameters in order to optimize the use of the system by various types of sensors of the robots. And the end objective is to utilize the advanced capabilities of the Pandora's phase 1 and phase 2 trustworthy pipelines to create autonomous deployments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ajay, for this very interesting presentation, which I think also touched upon several topics that are a bit linked to each other. If you could stop sharing, please. Yes, thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, so there were a lot of topics, I think, a bit interlinked to each other. You also provided in a way a bridge between some of the topics that Sergio touched upon about the manufacturing sector and some of the concerns and issues that Xavier pointed out in his own presentation. And I think I would like to welcome you all to the panel session now. So if the three of you can all turn on their cameras, and also Matthias and Golboo, also Nikolaos, feel free to chime in if you want. I will start by asking some questions myself, also because I see there are not so many questions in the Q&A part, but I would encourage the audience to ask any questions at each moment for some of our speakers, so we can take them live or also answer in the Q&A part. So I would first piggyback to Sergio, if you don't mind, and to your industry-related use cases. And I would like to ask you, first of all, how can the use case that you just described potentially impact end users in the field? Which are the new opportunities that could be brought to such a case?
Yes, thank you for the question. So the point that we have here is scalability. And you see, we have a lot of small-scale experiments run by manufacturing SME. One of them I showed and just briefly in my presentation. And this is a good example. This is a good experiment, but scalability and portability are the key challenges for that. So you could really achieve good results, but at a small scale. And the edge to cloud continuum and the possibility to have this seamless continuum between the edge and the cloud should allow the scalability of these experiments. So you should think different machinery, different production lines of the same company, but also in the supply chain, and so of the suppliers, the warehouses which are in the supply chain, all to be connected and optimized. And this will really allow a step change in the scalability of the experiment. And in my opinion, this is the major challenge that, as Golboo said, manufacturing, we have several cases but they are of edge computing, edge IoT technologies, but usually they are small scale. And the initiative that Golboo mentioned, and so the large scale pilots and the CI-SPHERE project, I think they are going in this direction. That is how to scale up and how to make portable the experiences that we have, but which are fragmented and scattered.
No, I think it's an interesting perspective in terms of the upskilling, and the scalability across the board is probably a concern and one of the main points to boost European competitiveness, as you suggest. I would like to maybe stay with you for a second, because I think it's a very interesting discussion, and to enlarge a bit the focus, because I also want to touch upon scalability, but market-wise. So, okay, there is scalability across the board. As you suggest, seamless scalability is important, but how can you then stimulate, an SME in a given ecosystem, to adopt these scalable solutions, if you know what I mean? What are the gaps that now we are facing?
Well, the approach that we are following in AI-REDGIO 5.0 is an approach which is based on regional innovation, as I said. And so trust is the key word, and trust between solution providers, users, and intermediaries and service providers. And this needs to be built with time. So it is not something that you could decide in one shot that then we have a trusted environment. And no, it is something that comes with the years, and comes, in my opinion, with the local relationship, the neighbors, and sharing the same environment, sharing the same territory. And this is done, in my opinion, by the Digital Innovation Hub and the European Digital Innovation Hub. If I have to make a criticism or an add-on to that, the European Digital Innovation Hubs have 4 main pillars, which are summarized by the best acronym. And so business services, services to support the investment, ecosystem services, skills development services, and test before invest. In my opinion, we need a special class of Digital Innovation Hub with the D services, data services, and so the best. What we are proposing in AI-REDGIO. And so Digital Innovation Hubs should not be just bureaucrats, regional agencies, but they should really have the capability of managing the trust among the different actors in the region, but also being the honest broker, being the intermediary, the trusted intermediary, for instance, towards the cloud, because the major challenge for SME is to share data. And with whom do I share my data? Maybe with my competitors, maybe I don't know where my data is, the right to be forgotten, and all this stuff. And so this is the major obstacle. And this trusted environment, regional, local, speaking the same dialect, if you want. You understand in Italy that there are several dialects. And so also speaking the same dialect is important to create this trust and this community. And this is what we propose in AI-REDGIO 5.0.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sergio. I think it's a very comprehensive answer, and I think it is a good way of trying to, let's say, provide potential suggestions for digital innovation hubs to expand a bit their reach. I'm also familiar a bit with the ecosystem, and yes, obviously, these are a very interesting initiative that has a lot of potential, but a lot still needs to be done to bolster this type of environment. And I think the IPCEI-CIS, it's a bit faced with the same challenges when you think about all the solutions that are being developed and how to then boost the uptake of this throughout the ecosystem. So we are still an initial stage, but I think these are very important points that we might want to go back to some years from now. And I think what you're doing with the REDGIO is really path breaker in that sense. So it's a very interesting perspective for all of us. So thank you very much for the insight. I would push a bit back now from the end user perspective to the tech developer perspective, because obviously we talked about trust, the importance of trust to bolstering market uptake of solutions, to share data and all of that. But I think both Xavier and Ajay, you pointed at several challenges that are still out there, which are big challenges, right? There are big technical limitations, roadblocks, that are potentially hindering, the development of some of these innovations that are based on the computer continuum and the adoption of AI across the board. So could you elaborate, both of you, a bit on that? Maybe Xavier first, and then Ajay, just because the order of the speakers was that.
Sure, that's a good question, actually. I mean, limitations there are too many, to be honest. The first is that we have completely no idea on how we may provide trustworthiness, and that's an important problem, because at the end of the day, it's clear. I mean, I trust you, so easy. Trust you, it's binary, yes or not. But how do you do that with AI, and how do you do that with the cloud and edge? This is not so easy, right? I said before, I mean, on AI, because we have no idea on what AI is going to do, and this is where explainability and all of this stuff can also take over. On cloud and edge, because you are not controlling systems, so you do not have one door you can knock and say, hey, man, I want you to provide trust here. You cannot do that, right? So this is not so easy. Actually, in Manolo, we are using a set inspection that is a sort of methodology that is providing this sort of, say, rules or policies or what. The end of the day is a methodology, right? That you should tick. I mean, I've done that, yes. I've done that, yes. I've done that, yes. When you are over, you are trustable. Come on, I mean, yes, right? So that's the point. But I mean, if we keep in mind that we should, I mean, we as engineers, we are used to say something is trustable or something is whatever, because we assess that this something is happening, right? And with trust, is not so easy. And beyond that, beyond the concept itself, we have many other problems. I mean, even from the hardware perspective, even there is, I mean, we are using hardware, of course, but there is hardware that is new, but there is hardware that is not so new. So in hardware, there would be some hardware that could be too old to be compatible with, say, some operating systems that could be or can operate into library frameworks that we would need for optimizing the way that trust is provided on AI. We have new system architectures, ARM, that probably are not so happy with manage that sort of libraries that we use in science. Or even we go for some architectures that are different from 8.6 that cannot be so happy with developing Python scripts. That would be on hardware, but in cloud, I mean, in cloud continuum, I mean, how do we manage resources? What is a resource? I mean, Sergio said before that users may be somehow skeptical to share data. Fully agree, but not only data. It would be good if they can share resources. For example, imagine that you are in a mall where you have 1,000, say, I use the word Tesla, but I'm not going to use it anymore. But the word a smart car that is just in a parking spot. All these cars are just stopped. What about using all these cars as a sort of, say, mini or not that mini computer center, computer facility that we may all use to develop services? Why not? There is business model behind. But why not doing that? Of course, there are problems with privacy. What happens if someone is struggling with my car and then when I try to switch it on, there is no battery to run it, right? So There are many problems here, but imagine with your smartphone. Why not? I mean, you have your smartphone, but your smartphone is not working all the time. Mine now is stopping, it's doing nothing. So I cannot be used by someone else to run wherever they need. There will be, of course, policy, blah, blah, protection, blah, 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 but why not? So more than that, we are going for green. What does it mean, green? We are all day talking about green design. What does it mean, green design? We are consuming and consuming and consuming and consuming. So how do we manage that? How do we integrate AI natively? Someone also mentioned that on integrating AI natively in the systems. How we can provide security? No way. No way. I told to my students, when I did my PhD, someone said, just switch off your computer. Now, even if you do that, there is no complete security that you are safe. So no way. We should be able to work with systems that for sure will be not secure, right? We are working on open source tools. How do we know that these open source tools that we are using to develop a system is safe, is secure? Now there is a call that is open on how we may securize systems that are outside generated hardware and software systems that are generated or developed outside Europe, or even for systems that are open source. Even on data, how do we guarantee that data has quality enough to train the models that we are being supposed to train? How do we do that? No way. How do we do that with Gen AI? How do we do that with LLMs? There are many technologies that are somehow going on an adversarial way on how we may provide secure system. How do we do a system that is robust? No way. No way. I mean, I'm not pessimistic, right? So that's it. But it's very, very difficult that we can provide a system that is for sure trustable. From the point of view of even in the case that we know what trustworthiness means, that's not something so easy, because it should have many, many different, depending on who's reading the wording. How do we do it from a technical perspective is not so easy.
Thank you very much, Xavier. I think there are a lot of interesting criticism points that maybe it's also food for thought for us and also for the audience. And there are a couple of questions that are popping in the Q&A. So if you want to take a look as well, Ajay, I would give the floor to you now, maybe, so that if you want to comment on this.
So in terms of Ericsson and Pandora, I would say there are three main challenges. One, more in the context of Pandora, is that how do we integrate trustworthy AI in these safety critical environments? So we have environments which are probably using robotics. In terms of Siemens and Philips, they're also part of their production pipelines, and typically these are conservative customers in enterprise industries who only want to use software or technologies that are sort of stable. But when it comes to AI, many times we have outliers that could cause problems. So how to link in reliability and safety conditions on top of that, that is one of the first challenges. The second challenge, more towards Ericsson's side, is that we want to demonstrate the improvements of 5G and 6G over traditional networks, but also as with the cost advantage, because cost and usability advantage. So here there is a lot of research work going on how to have better exposure of interfaces of 5G and 6G, so that even OT operators can utilize this in a seamless fashion. And there is significant improvements over Wi-Fi or wired technologies when they use 5G and 6G. And so having use cases and convincing that in is also going to be a challenge over the next few years, so that enterprise use cases become a significant chunk of portion of revenue to cellular and mobile network operators compared to traditional video and voice. And the third one, because we within Pandora, we are also focusing on AI as a service and compute as a service. There are technical challenges here where these AI as a service requires intelligent model management, selection, and use of appropriate models for training. So there are data challenges there. And when we go to compute as a service, here we want to host these either on the edge or on telco edge cloud. And there we would be going against traditional hyperscalers such as your Google and Amazons of the world. And so what is the advantage that we could pose on the 6G network, where enterprise customers would choose these compute as a service continuum compared to traditional hyperscalers? So those are sort of both implementation and adaptation challenges that I see. So these are the three things that I could think of, both related to the Pandora project as well as Ericsson.
Thank you, Ajay. I think I would like now to pose a question to all of you. There is a question in the Q&A that also is interesting for you, Ajay, which is about 5G and 6G integration. So maybe you could take a look. But other than that, I would like to pose questions maybe to all of you. We have both the challenge. We have heard a lot of the challenges of the end users, the tech developers. I think these are all in a way also linked to each other. It's clear pretty much what the challenges are, that there are a lot of roadblocks that still need to be overcome. Obviously, the time is passing, the clock is ticking. There are a lot of initiatives in Europe, but also a lot of challenges that multiply. So I would say, if you were, and this is a question maybe for everybody, also for Golboo, maybe Matthias, feel free to pop in. If you were a policymaker, European policymaker today, what would you think are the strength points of Europe, let's say, in the computing continuum field, and as far as AI goes, and where would you start from? Let's say from the positive end of the spectrum, and what would you focus on as a priority? Let's say, I know it's a bit of a let's say big question, but even a small perspective on that specific topic would be interesting, I think, at this stage. I don't know who wants to go first.
Big question, difficult to answer, but well, maybe I come back to what Xavier said in his presentation. We need to verify if our arguments for edge computing are really valid and are really bought by the customers. I mean, we have this argument of more control. We have this arguments of more efficiency, scalability, and in what Xavier discussed now a few minutes ago, it sounded a bit like all these arguments are not really valid, and I'm now a bit puzzled. But I think what he wants to say is, well, we can't give 100% guarantee, but there's still an advantage of these continuum models compared to the hyperscale models. And the question for me is still, why don't we see more uptake when the arguments are right? Are we not good enough in providing trust behind the arguments, or are the arguments itself a bit questionable?
Thank you, Matthias. Anybody wants to comment?
If I may add also something you asked, Claudio, about the, let's say, opportunities or the strengths that Europe might have in this regard. So I think that rather than a strength, maybe I can highlight it as an opportunity. I think one opportunity that Europe can take in the era of the edge computing is using, because this paradigm shift has generated a sort of new value chain, and so new value chain actors are emerged according to this paradigm shift. So I think here there could be an opportunity for Europe and European players to somehow on board and get this sort of new value chain actors role, which are quite important. So something like when we talk about the integrators, for instance, you know, or when we talk about the specific, for instance, technological providers in terms of AI. So I think here that there are some opportunities for Europe. Another thing, I think it's a challenge, but it can also be transferred to an opportunity is the point of the standardization, because now currently Europe is strong in terms of the standardization, you know, but the point is that maybe it's a bit fragmented. So here I think if Europe can really somehow join force the different activities and establish a sort of international collaboration with the working groups that it has with the other international working groups. So I think that there is a good opportunity for Europe in order to be able to somehow scale up its solution. And another thing is also maybe to focus on specific applications, because honestly, at the end of the day, we cannot provide solutions for all the problems that exist. So we should understand that where are the strategic parts that we need to put our efforts there, and we focus on them. And maybe we should accept that, yes, a part of battle has been lost, but it doesn't mean that the whole battle has been lost. So we should understand that, okay, where are the really strategic sectors, strategic applications that we should focus on in Europe, and then move forward with our efforts there.
No, I agree. I think there are a lot of opportunities in this very varied ecosystem, and so we need to seize them as much as we can, right? Anybody else?
No, just a very brief comment. So we are all coming from Horizon Europe. In Digital Europe, there is an initiative which is the AI TEF, the Testing Experimentation Facility of AI applications in 4 domains, manufacturing, healthcare, agri-food, and sitcom. And this is, in my opinion, a fantastic opportunity to test and experiment our solutions at higher TRL. We are all scientists here in Horizon Europe. In particular, the colleagues from Manolo and Pandora are research and innovation action. I running an innovation action. However, I believe that there is this opportunity for Europe of the AI testing and experimentation facility, and I believe that we should really leverage on this opportunity, and the 4 projects are now start providing their services for AI solution providers at the edge and in the edge to cloud continuum.
Thank you, Sergio. I think it's an interesting perspective. The integration part is really key. I agree. Anybody else to add anything?
Very short. To me, the problem is towards business model. That's it. And it's related to what we were saying before. I mean, we must identify services, or I mean, the domain, the specific domain where we may benefit. I mean, most of it, and push for it. I mean, if I'm someone that should invest on that, I would say, okay, but what is my benefit in the next 5 years, right? Why should I invest here? Why? Which is the benefit of using edge or using cloud? I mean, IBM started with many years ago, right? And at the end of the day, they do not have a very strong position on that. And they started many years ago. Cisco did the same with fog computing. They did not push for that strong way for long, right? So why? I mean, why is this not progressing that fast as expected, right? So that's a critical point. And look, at the end of the day, hyperscalers that were mentioned before here, they are of course offering some sort of edge services, but when you go into an hyperscaler, you have no idea what is happening. So it's different that if we put together. That's why I was mentioned before that no one is only. I mean, there is no infrastructure that is putting all together cloud and edge that's being managed by one only institution or only one company, right? That would be the good point here. If we are just relying again on the hyperscalers, I mean, Europe has nothing to do. I mean, there is no business on that. So this is I mean, it's just, I mean, I'm not going to say wasting money, but close to it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the point, that we here have business models that are not ruled by one company, but that these business models need ecosystems that develop models how they can share their resources. You mentioned this example of the smart cars on the parking space, and of course, the first question that everybody comes to mind is, what is my personal benefit when I share it with others? The main benefit comes by that all are sharing it, and by that you then enhance the scalability. And maybe we still need more experiences in managing such distributed and shared ecosystem business models. I think here Europe is in a good starting position, but we still need more, experience on how we really can bring such business models to the benefit of all.
Seems like a very good takeaway. I don't know if there is anybody else who wants to add anything, but I also believe the business model is key, and this is why the market pathways that we presented here needs to be taken into account, because I mean these are functional in developing a business model that could work, and devise potential uptake strategies that let's say take the good points that are being developed in Europe and try to expand on that. I think if nobody else wants to add anything, if there are no there is a question for Xavier. I would take this maybe last question for you, and it's in the Q&A from our audience. Maybe we can take it live. So taking into account your highlights in terms of the safety and security challenges and quality of data, do you consider there is a lack of standards in the specific areas? Do you believe that the de facto and other standard setting organization could help in that direction?
Yes. The quick answer is yes, but at the end of the day, standards is that some people is agreeing on doing something, right? So the point to me, I mean, I agree with the question, right? So probably we should all get a complete or understanding on this sort of standards, or even de facto standards that could be managed to do. But security is very, very, very difficult, because the standards are not, I mean, one standard in security that is applied to health, it will be probably much different than one standard that could be applied to Cloud-Edge. So it's the own communities that should start putting together what they agree on the security, I mean, common rules should be. And that's not so easy, right? That's not so easy. That's very, very complex.
Yes, thank you very much, Xavier. I think I consider this question answered. It is actually a very good point, and I think I don't know if anybody wants to comment on that, but I think the audience can be satisfied by such an answer. And I don't see any other questions, and we are basically already past the time. We're supposed to end, I think, at 35, it's now 37. So if there are no more questions and no more points to discuss, I would thank everybody for their presence today. I think it was a very fruitful discussion, and we will try to encapsulate the learnings in a brief report in the next few days. You'll be posted about that. I think it's a very good starting point also for CISERO and for the IPCEI community, for the type of discussions and points that we touched upon. These are all insights that come from projects that have been out there for a while already, and that could benefit the IPCEI-CIS community at large. So I would thank everybody, our audience, for bearing with us until now, and our speakers, nonetheless, for the great insight they shared today. Feel free to follow us, follow CISERO, and to drop us an email if you have further questions about today's session. Otherwise, I wish you a good afternoon, and I hope to see you all soon for another discussion like this. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Claudio, for
Thank you.
moderating and organizing.
Nice afternoon.
Bye.